In today's video, we're going to be learning how to run R scripts on a schedule using a GitLab CI/CD pipeline. This video is sort of a part 2 to the video I posted on September 27th, 2022, which was called How to Send Automated Emails on a Schedule Using R for Free, Blastula, Cordo, and GitHub Actions. So in today's video, we're basically going to be doing the exact same thing that I did in that other video, except this time it's using GitLab instead of GitHub. You'll definitely want to check out that other video if you haven't already, since I'm going to be glossing over a lot of the details in today's video, because I would be more or less repeating myself, but I'll still give the high-level details that are necessary in order to make this video self-contained. I'm going to be using the files from the other video as the starting point for this video. I'm going to start by downloading these files from GitHub, and I'm going to put those files in this new folder that I've created on my computer. Once I've downloaded those, I've got a Cordo document, an R script, and then inside of this folder called .github, there's another folder called workflows, which contains a YAML file that in the last video specified how GitHub Actions was going to be used to send those emails on an automated schedule. The biggest difference between using GitHub Actions and using GitLab pipelines is this YAML file. With GitHub Actions, your YAML file needs to be contained inside of a folder called workflows, which is contained inside of a folder called .github. But with GitLab pipelines, you instead need to have a file that's called .gitlab-ci.yml, and that needs to go into the main part of your repository. The first thing that I'm going to do, therefore, is delete this .github folder. And after I delete that folder, I'm going to create a new YAML file, and it needs to be called .gitlab-ci.yml. And now it'll be this YAML file that will tell GitLab how to run this pipeline. Let's take a quick peek at the R script that we'll be running and this Cordo document that goes along with it. If you want to see the full details of what's going on in this script, be sure to check out that other video. But basically all this script is doing is it's using the Blastula package to create an email object from a Cordo file. And then using the Blastula package, that email is sent to an email address of our choosing from an email account that we have a credential file for. I won't show the creation of this credential file since I covered that in my last video, but it is just a single line of code that you can uncomment here and replace with your information. And the Cordo document is even more straightforward. It just contains the default information that gets inserted into any new Cordo document when you create a new project. But the key piece of information that allows us to send this as an email is this line in the YAML here, where we specify that the format needs to be a Blastula email. For this video, I don't need to change anything in this Cordo document, and I also don't need to change anything in this R script. So those two parts will be the exact same as what was in the last video. This means that all of the magic is going to come from this .gitlab-ci.yml file. We're going to start by giving this pipeline a name, which I'll call send email. Then we need to specify the image, and I'll be using this image, which is going to install R version 4.0.2 each time the pipeline is run. And this 4.0.2 is chosen arbitrarily. You can use other versions of R. Eventually, we're going to specify a script that we want to run. And we're going to use the command R script to run the send_email R script. But before we can run that script, we need to install Pandoc. And we also need to install the Blastula package. Above script, I'm going to write before script. And these are actions that will get executed before the script part is executed. We'll start by installing Pandoc, and then we'll install the Blastula package. And we do that by using the R script command, and then the install.packages function, and save. That's it for this YAML file. It's quite a lot shorter than the one that we saw in the last video and quite a bit easier to read as well. Before we can put this on GitLab, there's just one last step, And that step is making a copy of the credential file that was created in the other video. Now we're ready to put these 4 files in a project on GitLab. On GitLab, create a new project, give your project a name, make sure that you set the visibility to private. Just like with the last video, this credential file does contain a password stored as plain text. So if you don't make this project private, it means that anyone can go and find that credential file, download it, and then send emails as if they're you from that email account. So make sure that you set this to private. Once you've created the project, go ahead and push those 4 files so that you can see them on GitLab. Once you've got those files uploaded, you're basically done. Along the sidebar, if you go to CI/CD and then pipeline, the pipeline should have been triggered automatically. And I can see here that this failed. So let's take a quick look at what happened. This is telling me that I made a typo in the part where I wrote before dash script. This should actually say before underscore script. I'm going to save that and push those changes and go back to pipelines. And that fixed that issue. The pipeline is now running. And if we take a look at it, we can see that it's automatically started running. One thing I will mention is if you're using a personal GitLab account and you haven't done this already, you'll probably be asked to verify your identity by entering credit card information, which is what I had to do in order to get this to run. GitLab won't charge your credit card. This is a free service, so it won't cost you any money. But if you want to use this method, you will need to enter your credit card information if you're using a personal account that you just sign up for on gitlab.com. Things are being installed now. And after 2 minutes and 12 seconds, everything is finished running. And R has outputted a message saying that the email message was sent successfully. And we can see that the job succeeded. Going back to the jobs page, the little loading symbol that we saw before has now turned into a green check mark. There's just one last step in order to fully recreate what we did in the GitHub Actions video, which is specifying how to run this on an automated schedule. With GitHub Actions, we used the YAML file to specify a cron expression, but with GitLab, we can go to schedules and then create a new schedule using a graphical user interface. We can then schedule a pipeline to run on whatever pattern we want, and we can use a cron expression if we want to, but what's really nice is that there's some radio buttons here that you can click that will show you examples of cron expressions, and you can also use a drop-down to change the time zone. In the other video, we ran the script every day at 9 a.m. UTC, but you can easily play around with this and use any kind of schedule that you want. From there, I scroll down and click Save Pipeline Schedule, and then GitLab will tell me when the next run is going to occur. Right now, it's 7:04 p.m. Eastern Time, which means that 9 a.m. UTC is in about 9 hours from now at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. All in all, I think that setting this up with GitLab was slightly easier, but I will say that if you run into any problems, trying to figure out GitLab pipelines can be a little bit more challenging than figuring out GitHub Actions, especially if what you're trying to do is run R scripts. And that's because there's just more documentation and more tutorials online for doing this kind of thing using GitHub. But I personally really like how straightforward this is with GitLab. We used this pipeline to run an R script every morning that sends an email using Blastula. But sending automated emails is definitely not the only use case for GitLab pipelines or GitHub Actions. For example, another really common use is for web scraping. In today's video, we learned how to run an R script on an automated schedule using a GitLab pipeline. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to my channel so that I can keep making videos like this.